Tome of Uselessness. I'm Devin.
I'm Dan.
And today we're going to talk about Argylle. But first, did you like anything?
Yeah, there's a few things since we last recorded that I want to bring up. One of the things, I forgot to bring it up in our November catch-up episode, and that was, I read a book called All of the Marvels by Douglas Wolk, I believe is W-O-L-K, Wolk. But basically, he read all of the Marvel comics from the beginning to when this book was released. Yeah, 12,000 or 16,000 issues or something like that. And he wrote a book about it, basically talking about like the main, kind of some of his favorites, or he does like a Fantastic Four. And then what he does is that he kind of explains a bit about their history and how they've kind of evolved. And then he kind of picks some issues that, like, if you were interested, he's like, hey, these ones kind of reflect their arcing story until more modern times, until you get into something like, like a Jonathan Hickman one or whatever kind of thing. So he does that for a few of his favorite characters, and then he talks about some other things here and there of note. I kind of thought it'd be more just like a generalized thing about comics and like how they've changed as society has changed and stuff like that, but it wasn't. It was more focused than I thought it was going to be. But it was still cool. It was a neat read. My favorite part, I think, like I was telling you, was that he was like, was this a good idea? No. And he's like, should you do this? No. I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, it was kind of neat. One thing that stood out to me as I remember is that despite all of the issues and how long comics, since like say the Fantastic Four has been running since like the 60s, right? It's kind of like the beginning of the superhero era for Marvel. That is like 14 or 15 years has passed within Marvel time, despite the 50 years that has passed, or 60 years in real time.
Okay.
Just because, there's only like one issue a month or whatever, right? So it's like kind of thing. Anyway, that was kind of interesting. So yeah, it was a cool read. I really enjoyed it. And if you're interested in comics, I would highly recommend.
What was it called again?
All of the Marvels.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, straightforward title. I like that too. Yeah, it's just, I did it all. And then I read, again, I forgot to mention this, I read the run of The Immortal Hulk by Bennett Ewing. And it was like a 50-issue run of the Hulk. I'd heard that it was really good, and that's why I kind of got into it. And it, unshockingly, was really good. It ended in 2021. I think it went from 2019 to 2021. And yeah, it was very cool. Great art, some Alex Ross covers, and just some neat stuff. Because they really leaned into the Hulk can't die, but like, why can't he die? And when he does die, what the heck even happens? And so it's like his consciousness goes to another, like the gamma radiation acts as like kind of like light. It's a particle in a wave, but then it's also affecting like magic related stuff. So he's in like another dimension, essentially. And yeah, it just goes into some crazy directions that, like, I don't read Hulk comics in general. Like, I've read, he shows up in the Avengers and stuff like that. But this was straight up just the Hulk. And then he fights like Gamma Flight. He fights the Avengers at one point. At one point, they try to drop like a huge space laser on him, and nuke a town essentially. And it stops him briefly. but it's like, he's the Hulk. He just keeps coming. Anyway, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was a great run.
Nice.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like I said, I just don't read a lot of Hulk, and this was like his wife shows up, but she's also like a gamma creature now because she did it to try to like get into his world, and of course it goes wrong, and so she turns into like a harpy type creature. Yeah, so, and then She-Hulk shows up for a little bit as well because obviously she's related.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and some intense stuff, and just some, like I said, some villains and some heroes, and at one point he fights like an alien thing. Anyway, super cool. I liked it a lot. And then yeah, I'll talk about two books here that, these are nonfiction. They're pretty intense. One was called Tyranny of the Minority by Stephen.
It's time for Dan's depression hour.
Yeah. No, yeah, Stephen Levetsky and Daniel Ziblatt wrote this, and this was a follow-up book that they wrote, because the book, I can't remember the title now. I think I've mentioned it on the show. It was written up till 2019. So it was before the American 2020 election. They're Americans. It's about American politics. And in that book, they were outlining ways about like how you can, because it was something about, I think it was called How Democracies Die. So it was about fascism and these kind of things. And they're like, here's how democratic institutions can fight back. None of that happened. And then, of course, the January 6th insurrection occurred. So they wrote this book basically being like, oh no. And just, it was actually pretty fascinating because it does, he does talk about, excuse me, other political, or they do talk about other political systems around the world, because basically it's like the dichotomy in democratic systems where, especially in the American one, this is like their main problem, but it's like you don't want majorities to be able to just drown out and control minorities. But if you put too many mechanisms in place, then the majority can't govern because they can't pass their policies. They can't do their stuff. Even though the will of the people is behind the majority, they can't do their things, which of course is what America's really involved in right now with gridlock and stuff like that. Like we technically have a minority government, but there's that deal with the NDP and the Liberals that is keeping that going. But if they didn't have that deal, like any legislation would have to be a cooperative thing, which would technically be better, right?
Yeah.
But so anyway, it was a pretty cool read. Like I said, I did enjoy it, and it was, it's not uplifting because you're just like, oh yeah, especially for the American one, it's like, because we're affected by them, and it's just like all these systems they have in place, just it's not going anywhere fast. And then the next book I read after that was called God, Guns, and Sedition: Far-Right Terrorism in America by Jacob Ware and Bruce Hoffman. And this book was really fascinating because one of the authors, I think I want to say it was Bruce Hoffman, I don't remember, but he was like, he's the guy who's been studying this stuff since like the 80s. And then the other person's a more recent, younger person who's been working in this area, and they teamed up to write this book. And it basically traces the origin of, right-wing terrorism in America. Also, and some people up in Canada, of course, are mentioned and affected by it. But yeah, he just kind of talks about the rises and falls, like from the Ku Klux Klan to when they went away to, eventually the more rise, and then like the Oklahoma City bombing and like other events that have occurred. And like I said, intense read, no doubt about it. But I found it, it was really good. It was really well researched. I think, like I was joking with you, this book and the previous one had 200 pages of citation, and this one had 140 pages of citation. So I was like, they really go. They'd be like, they have all the data. We're not making it up here.
Nice.
But yeah, super good reads. And then the last thing I'll mention, not as depressing, I mean, I guess, but was the video game Horizon Zero Dawn.
Oh, yeah.
I finally got into that because I'm an upgraded computer now and can play some of these games I've purchased in the past. It was great. I totally enjoyed it. I might do a video about it. I was toying about the idea about it, but like, lots of fun, great open world stuff, different approaches to the monsters. The story was really good. I enjoyed that. I mean, I'm a sci-fi guy anyway, so it was like right up my alley, post-apocalypse, what's going on. You got dinosaur machines running around. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. There is a sequel, of course, so I'd like to get that at some point. Lance Reddick, R.I.P. doing a major voice character in there. It was good. If you haven't played the first one and you're looking for something kind of in that vein, highly recommend. It was very enjoyable. I think it took me just over 65 hours to do nearly all of the content. Like I think I did 100% of the expansion and like 98% or 95% of the main game, because I just didn't do like 2 of the timed missions or whatever, because I was like, they're just frustrating and annoying. So I just moved on. But it was good. So I highly recommend that. But yeah, what about yourself in the interim?
Well, I just realized that I haven't been holding my mic the whole time.
That's all right. I can still hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got it closer to my. If my sound quality has suddenly improved, everyone knows why now. So I've been really busy just with life right now, and I don't remember very much. Period. But I'll tell you about a couple things at least.
Sure.
I read Legends and Lattes, which is just a short little novel fiction about basically like an orc from a D&D party that decides that she doesn't want to be an adventurer anymore and opens up a coffee shop. It is a cozy little fun read. It's not difficult. You can finish it pretty quick.
Nice.
And I recommend it, I guess. Yeah. If you're just looking for like a light thing to read, then if you don't want to be depressed and know about things that are really happening in the world, don't read the smart books that Dan suggests. Read the dumb books that I suggest. And then I watched all of his Dark Materials.
Oh, yeah, right.
You've talked about in the past. I watched all 3 seasons. I won't go too much into it because we may or may not do a episode in the future.
I'd like to.
But season 1 was great. Season 2 was great. Season 3 should have been great, but it kind of dipped in quality towards the end. Overall, really enjoyed it, and I'd highly recommend it. And then the other thing is that I've been rewatching the Hobbit movies, and next I'm going to rewatch the Lord of the Rings trilogy. The Hobbit movies are bad, and that hasn't changed. But I did watch them.
Yeah, I think like I was saying to you, like off mic or whatever, it's like I haven't watched them since they came out. Like I think, they show up on TV every so often, but yeah, like I just remember, like I was saying, like the scenes that were just like the best were Bilbo and somebody else, and then the third movie just goes off the rails.
Yeah, like the first movie, the best scene is Bilbo and Gollum.
Yeah.
The second movie, the best scene is Bilbo and Smog or whatever. How do you say Smog?
Yeah.
And the third movie is so weird. like I spent a good portion of the movie trying to figure out what the 5 armies were in the Battle of the 5 Armies. It's weird that Smog gets killed before even the opening credits are finished. There's like a lot of stuff to do with like the weird little guy that was the assistant to Stephen Fry.
Mm.
And, like,
right, yeah.
You're like, why are we focusing on him so much? It feels like filler, but the movie is like 17 hours long. So like,
Yeah.
you need that. And he's got weird little like one-liner. Like there's a part where he dresses up as a woman to try to get out of like fighting in the war.
Yeah.
And he's like trying to run away with a bunch of money, and he drops some, and Bard kind of confronts him, and he's like, I'm getting out of here because with my money. And then he like runs off, and as he's running away, Bard's like, your slip is showing. And I'm like, what the fuck is that line? What is this part? It's like nothing, I don't think anything happens to him. I think he just gets away with the money. Like he's like, I know he's like this, like, okay.
Yeah, like I don't remember a comeuppance situation, but like he would be the guy to get comeuppance, but I could be wrong.
You forget about him because it's so bloated. And it's so weird because when you watch that trilogy, especially if you were like impressionable when Lord of the Rings came out, you can see all the references they're trying to make to Lord of the Rings, like by using the same music, by composing shots very similarly, by setting up scenes in a similar way, so that you're reminded of Lord of the Rings and you can maybe get tricked into thinking this is a good movie. But then, like, it doesn't make any sense in what you're watching, and it's just like, I know he, like, that little assistant to Stephen Fry is like a worm tongue substitute, but like without being
Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
Who's awesome.
It is. I was gonna say without any of the charisma, but I don't know if that's the right term. Like negative.
But that menace and like malice,
factor. He's just sort of like a weird dude with bad teeth and a unibrow that's like an asshole. I don't know. It really bothered me.
Yeah. Well.
So now I'm through those, and now I can get into the Lord of the Rings, which I obviously like. And yeah, I don't know. That's it. That's all I got. I don't recommend the Hobbit movies. If you were like, man, I haven't watched the Hobbit movies in a long time. I loved Lord of the Rings. Maybe they're not as bad as I remember. They are absolutely as bad as you remember. They're actually worse than you remember because your brain's probably skipping over some of the bad parts.
Yeah, it's self-editing.
I forgot that weird little guy was in those movies. It's also weird that your titular character is unconscious for the climax of your trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's weird because of like a lot of the not liberties, let's say, but like alterations you could make because of the adaptation. You could change that fact because in the book he gets bonked out and misses the entire battle, but the battle is also only like a paragraph in the book. So it's like, okay, if you're gonna do this whole big thing, just don't get bonked out. That's fine, right? Like you've already altered the story anyway.
It's so far removed from the little there and back again a Hobbit story that like who fucking cares at that point? Give him a cannon and have him run in and save the day and fight one of those giant worms. Why are those giant worms in there? And what happens to the worms afterwards? Why aren't they in Lord of the Rings? Where did they come from? Did they go back to Dune?
That's what I was saying to you too. I was like, they could just use those at Helm Deep and just blammo.
Did they kill them all?
Yeah, that's what I would assume in the interim period.
Did the fucking 8 hobbits or 8 dwarves murder all the worms?
Yeah, they went out for revenge.
Yeah. So stupid. Also, like, the part where there's a bridge, stone bridge falling and Legolas running up is so stupid, and getting carried around by a bat, and that's stupid. Like, it's so stupid. The Hobbit movies are, and Legolas looks like AI made him. It looks like somebody put in a prompt that said, put Legolas into the Hobbit movies. His skin doesn't look real. His eyes don't look real. He looks like a weird, he doesn't look animated. He just looks alien. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got.
Nice.
Don't watch the Hobbit movies.
That's my takeaway here.
Yeah.
But and then we watched Argylle the other day.
Yeah, I was so excited about this movie, and it did not disappoint me. But I know that the audience and critical receipt of this movie has not been positive. So I think you enjoyed it too, didn't you?
There's a lot I enjoyed. There's also a lot I didn't enjoy.
Okay, well then, the parts that you enjoyed, I enjoyed the heck out of the whole thing, and I think I might be the only one.
Yeah, no, it was interesting because like I think I remember seeing an Instagram ad about it, and then because you were mentioning it, I was like, oh yeah, it's something about like a cat, and you're like, no, it's not about a cat, and I was like, well, I don't know, the trailer that I saw like on Instagram heavily featured a cat, and then I was like, yeah, something about like a spy writer or whatever, and I was like, okay, cool. But then I had no idea that it's done by Matthew Vaughn, who's made the Kingsman movies. It was written by Jason Fuchs, who he's had some interesting writing credits. Like he wrote the first Wonder Woman. Well, one of the credited writers on the first Wonder Woman. He's also he's writing the Hitchhiker's Guide TV show coming up, Welcome to Derry, which is based off the It series as well.
Wait, they're doing a Hitchhiker's Guide for TV?
Yeah, he's listed as a writer in pre-production right now for it.
Who's doing it? Is it good?
No, there's nothing really else in IMDb anyway about who else is involved, really. Just him currently.
What's the name of the guy that plays the Hobbit? I can never remember. Martin something, right?
Martin Freeman, yeah.
Yeah, because he was in Hitchhiker's Guide, and it's two movies that are based on books that did not live up to the books, but he is the best part in both of them.
I actually did enjoy that Hitchhiker's Guide movie. I know, again, like you're saying, it had a negative reception, I think, but I liked it.
I don't know. I guess it's hard to. I think Hitchhiker's Guide is just hard to adapt to the screen because it's so weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absurdist.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a couple more things. One thing I found that was interesting when I was doing a little bit of reading into this movie is that despite the budget number that's going around is $200 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I was reading was that Marv, which is Matthew Vaughn's production company, self-financed the movie and then sold it to Apple for $200 million. So from what I could read, I couldn't find an actual budget number for the movie, which is interesting. I mean, I would imagine he did it for less than 200 and then Apple paid that much.
He's just making money.
Sure. And
that's what he wants and then sells it for more. I appreciate that.
Yeah, but at least that's what it seems like. And then there was like a distribution deal with like Apple and Universal. Unfortunately, the box office, like you're saying, not too hot right now. It's done 37 million worldwide, 20 of that domestic. Yeah, and not lighting it up there at the box office. And one more thing that I learned today when I was doing some research into it was the composer is Lorne Balfe, who was the guy who composed the D&D movie.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I liked his composition there. And this came from IMDb and a couple other sources, Variety as well. One of them is that so I didn't know, because I don't know, that the song they used, Now and Then, is a Beatles song, a new Beatles song.
Is that Beatles song? Yeah,
was one of the songs either in the beginning or that the credits. It's heavily featured in the movie. I don't know. I'm not a big Beatles fan. Point of the story is that Matthew Vaughn and him licensed that song a year before it was even released. So they heard the song while it was still being like mixed and like recorded, and then they were like, "Oh, we want to use it for our movie," but they could tell no one that they had this Beatles song kind of like already licensed, and they were like, "Oh my gosh!" I don't know. I thought that was a neat kind of tidbit.
Was it like a previously unreleased track, or did Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr just write a song?
I think it's the first one, like you're saying. Maybe it was an unreleased track, and then they remastered it and released it.
Oh, okay. Is George Harrison still alive? I thought he died.
Don't know. I don't know the Beatles.
Well, I know one of them's dead for sure.
Well, Lennon, of course, is dead, yes. And then there's the theory that Paul is also dead, but I think that's been debunked several times by Paul McCartney himself.
Yeah, well, because he's alive.
Yeah, or is he, Devin? Is he? Yeah, no, but I don't know. I've never been the biggest fan, so I don't follow them. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't know much about them either.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I could go into the casting you want, or did you want to talk a bit about some thoughts before I do any of that?
I guess I just liked it. Like, it was a fun movie. I didn't. I mean, I laughed a lot in it. The twist in it surprised me. Like, I wasn't expecting that at all. I thought it was something much lamer. So I was happy that I was incorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just sat back and enjoyed it, and I didn't think about it too much. And I mean, like, I really like Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, he was great.
And there's very little that he can do wrong for me. And so I just enjoyed watching him. And then I also thought that Dallas Howard Bryce, that's her name?
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. I liked her in this way better than the Jurassic World movies. I thought it was like a better suited character to her, or she had maybe more freedom to portray the character the way she wanted, or something like it. It just kind of felt more like a good fit for her. Or it was just a better movie, so I enjoyed her. Like, she actually had like a personality, I guess. Maybe that was it. Whereas, like, she's just lady in the Jurassic World movies.
Money lady, as he likes to say in the pitch meetings.
Yeah, she's money lady.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, in this movie, she like has, like, she has a personality, she has a character, and she has growth, I guess. I liked all the casting. I didn't like Henry Cavill's haircut. I guess that's a negative thing I can say.
Yeah. And again, reading
terrible haircut.
Yeah,
Terrible.
reading some stuff that was done on purpose.
Why?
They were just kind of like, we wanted to do like a ridiculous thing so that you would know that these are like fantasy sequences, and his hair was part of that, just to be like, this is a ridiculous haircut that no one would have.
But why didn't they give him a good haircut that was ridiculous? It didn't Henry Cavill is an attractive man with a very attractive face. And this haircut made him less attractive. And I feel like, because it just didn't suit him at all.
Yeah.
And so I feel like if he had, if it was a fantasy and they were really trying to lean into that, then they would give him attractive hair.
No, I think I'm saying it's like a fantasy sequence, as in that like it's the imagined hyper real Argylle spy world where like the action figure has that spiky hair, right? Like, so that's what I'm saying. It's like it's an unreality, but it's even more unreality, because otherwise you'd give him his hair that he had in The Man from U.N.C.L.E., right? Like that was the best hair.
They could have given him like anime hair or something stupid like that. That would have worked still and probably looked better, because this haircut looked like a guy that lives in a trailer in the 80s would have. A guy that drinks beer for breakfast. That's what his haircut said to me.
Yeah, I don't disagree. It was bad hair.
Bad haircut. Bad haircut.
But like I said, I think that was part of its point, is that it's the unreality.
Yeah, that's fine, but I still don't like his haircut. Mm-hmm. I think they could have given him good hair and still been unreality.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's it. I just really liked it. So what do you want to tear down about the movie, Dan?
No. So I think, like I was saying to you after we came out of it, like I said, like that opening sequence with him and John Cena and stuff like that, like there was some ropey CG, but it was also like, oh, that's part of the fantasy sequence. So it's like, it's a kind of like, because it's a book reading and etc. But then as the movie continues, then that ropey CG is brought into the main storyline, and I didn't like that, because I was like, it would be better, or at least in my mind, if you kept those two separate, and you have like, because like the train fight is pretty gritty, like realistic action. Sam Rockwell's there, Bryce Dallas Howard. She's flickering back and forth between Henry Cavill, so we understand that, like, yeah, she's kind of losing it a bit. Cool. And then when they do the parachute out, that's, you know, it's a CG parachute situation. Okay, fine. They're not going to Mission Impossible it. But then, like I said, yeah, like there was more of that kind of used in the main storyline actions. In the last third, especially, like, you know, in the apartment, pretty realistic situation when they have that fight scene, and then again in the hallway where you don't really see much because Bryce Dallas Howard's focused on trying to crush this guy's head, which I loved. Right, that was great. And then, but yeah, then after that, every action
when they're
scene,
jumping and the cat looks stupid.
Yeah, no, the jump down, I was fine with that, you know.
Okay.
But it was just like, I think after that, then every action scene became just like a CG mess until the smoke CG situation. Like, I was okay with that, but I was also okay with that as being like the end. I thought that was, because here's a spoilers, of course, for this coming up here. Like, it turns out she was a spy, and I'm like, okay, cool. You know.
So the premise, just for people who aren't going to see it but still want to hear about it, which, you know, I don't blame you, I do this with movies all the time, is that she writes spy books, and then it turns out that everything she's been writing about is actually happening, and there's a rogue spy who's Sam Rockwell after her, and then there's a spy company after her who are the bad guys. Anyways, it turns out that it's not that she imagined it, it's that she is a spy, got in a coma, lost her memory, and the bad spy guys.
The directorate. Yes.
Yeah, the directorate brainwashed her into thinking that she was actually a spy book writer, basically.
Or like she was a waitress that wanted to write spy books, and then so they could use her knowledge to try to dig out where she had hidden this memory drive with compromising information. Which, yeah, like you said, I was like, oh, I didn't see that twist coming because it just seemed like you wouldn't do that.
No,
but I was like, okay, that's cool.
I 100% thought that they were going to reveal at the end that the whole thing was just her writing process, and
I didn't think that myself.
She had like writer's block at the beginning, and then she starts to be able to write again when she's hanging out with the Sam Rockwell. So that's what I thought, and I was like, oh, that's going to be so lame. So I was really happy that I was wrong.
Yeah, no, I was kind of hoping that it would just like I was thinking that twist wouldn't happen, that she was just a writer, and I thought that would have been interesting, and she gets dragged into the spy world, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of fun. But for me, like I was saying, like I was with it, and then when it turns out she is a spy, she shoots Sam Rockwell to, like, potentially save his life, and then she's doing the hacking, and then like the prompt comes up that she tried to send the file, but she couldn't because she didn't have Bryan Cranston's like optical nerve, and I was like, okay, cool.
Bryan Cranston and Catherine O'Hara are the bad guys, and they're pretty great.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, this is kind of cool. Then they can have some kind of confrontation here. We'd already seen Sam Rockwell escape, so I was like, he could show up and do like a final, rescue or whatever, and then that would be the end of the movie. No more action scenes. Yeah. And I was like, wow, what a great that. But then it just kept going, and then all the action scenes after that were just too ropey and sweaty for me because it was just like it went over the top. Like, oh, are you still there? All right, back after a technical issue, I think. But yeah, what I was saying is that in that confrontation, again, we'll come back to this, but she escapes from there. Yeah, rather than having a small confrontation there, where maybe like because it was a spy movie, and then it became this over the top action situation where I was kind of like, oh, I was ready for a cool spy ending, as it were.
Yeah.
And then there's that, and then they go down, and then they have that oil slick fight, which, like, I like the concept of, because they did in the transporter, of course, which was Jason Statham, but that was real versus CG here, right?
Yeah.
And like that bothered me, where I was just like, if you're gonna do this oil slick situation where she's skating, why didn't it just make it like liquid nitrogen or something, and then it ices the ground, and then she would be literally skating, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then again, like I said, and then there's another action, and I was like, dude, there's just too many action scenes stacked on top of each other. Like, I don't know. That's, like I said, that was just me, where I was like, oh yeah, this will end right here. Like, what a great ending. And maybe Cranston and O'Hara get away. That sets up your sequel. And no, instead they just keep going and going and going. Like, even when they confront him down in the server room, I was like, oh, okay, Cat jumps on him. You have a good finish there. And then they're like, oh no, his eyes are messed up and we have to do another thing. And I was like, what? No, just this is the end right here. You won the day.
I think that so I recently rewatched Kingsman 2, which is by the same director.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time I saw it, I hated it. I'm like, this is so corny and so cheesy and so campy. It's so different from the first one, and I hate it. But then when I rewatched it, I'm like, actually, this is really, now that I know going in that it's camp, I really just had fun with it. And I think, like, going into this movie, I was expecting camp, so I didn't mind, like, the cheesy oil slick ice skating and, like, the stupid top of the boat fight scene and everything, because I was kind of expecting it to be that way.
Right.
I don't think that the trailers necessarily communicated that that's how the movie was going to be, so I think that might be why a lot of people were I know you love trailers. I think that's why a lot of people were disappointed with it or didn't enjoy it, but I don't know, I was kind of expecting it to be like that, so it didn't so I didn't mind it as much, right?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think, like I said, for me, I was just kind of from that opening scene, like I said, with the fantasy unreality sequence, and then we cut to her, and then with that opening train fight, which was very, like I said, very grounded, almost Jason Bourne-esque, that I was like, okay, like we're gonna have this separation of the two situations, and like when she fantasizes or sees something, it'll be different versus like what's really kind of going on, which is what they did in a few times, but it just, like I said, it just became more unreal in the real for me, where I was kind of like even okay, like I understand it's a movie, you got to do something, but like I didn't realize until a little later how, like I said, she was in a coma. She's been writing these books, and it was 5 years, and I was like, no one found that floorboard in 5 years in that apartment. Like it's been clearly scrubbed and checked.
Oh yeah, good point.
Like the directorate clearly knew she went there and it blew up, so they would have been like, hey, what happened? And they're like, where was that apartment? I don't understand. Like, what? Like, even initially, it was kind of like bothering me that I was like, when they attack on the train, and I was like, she said she was going to see Catherine O'Hara, so why are they even doing this? But I was like, oh, no, okay, they want to keep Sam Rockwell away from her. That's who they were technically attacking. It just kind of looked like they were both involved, because I was like, she's going to you to write the book anyway. So, but yeah, like I said, just like it's like things like that where you're like, come on, man, you didn't find that, like, it wasn't hard. Sam Rockwell just like stepped on it and it revealed that it was an empty floorboard. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure they would have found that. Fine, we'll move along from that. But again, I didn't realize that I was like, in 5 years, no one found that? Like, no one's living in that apartment after 5 years?
I didn't even think of that because Sam Rockwell was dancing, and
sure,
that's all I saw.
I mean, that's all I was seeing too. Until afterwards, I was like, wait a minute.
Oh no! Even when I replay it in my mind, I just see Sam Rockwell dancing.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, he was so great, so much fun, and I think I was saying to you, like, he must have had like just a blast on set. And even I was watching a couple things here and there with like Cranston was saying that like he would do a take, and Matthew Vaughn was like, no, like do it bigger, like more evil, and just be more sinister. And he's like, okay, right? Just because everything he was always just like yeah, he's talking with a guy, and he's just like, this shotgun, and my dad's, and you're like, yeah, obviously he's about to shoot somebody. Like, there was no pretense at all.
I feel like that movie, if you had the cast exactly the same, but anybody else was in Sam Rockwell's part, that I would have disliked the movie by like 50%. Like 50% of the charm of the movie is Sam Rockwell. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, and I thought all the casting was great, like top to bottom, very well casted. But he really does carry the movie with his like charm and charisma.
Yeah, no, yeah, he was so charming in the movie, and just like he has that effortless like delivery where like he's exasperated but also fighting and also trying to be like, hey, I'm your friend, and he's just like, come on. And like you said, he's doing some dancing, and it was great.
Yeah. He's the reason why Charlie's Angels is so good.
McGee. Is he in both of them, or?
No, he's only in the first one. The second one is good because it's such a mess that it like circles back around to being good again.
That one has Demi Moore, right?
Yeah, Demi Moore is great in that movie because she just lies around in like lingerie and a fur coat with a gold gun that's like this big. That's just how she by like the fire. She's just lounging around like that in heels. And I'm like, yeah, this is a good movie now.
Well, and talking about lounging, this made me laugh a lot with Samuel L. Jackson's character in this. Like, what an easy shoot for him. He's walking on a vineyard, and then he sits down and he's watching TV and drinking wine. And that's literally what his character does in the movie. That just made me laugh. Yeah, I was like, he was on set, like 2 days? And he's just like, all right, I'm watching this Lakers game. And they're like, but we were going to put something else on the screen. Nope, Lakers game.
No. Do you think that was even like the original set? Or do you think he was like, I'm at my vineyard in France. I guess you can film if you want to come here?
I mean, possibly.
It's not even costumes. It's just his clothes.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me. Cameron Mitchell style. They just wheeled in some cameras, and there he is chilling on a chair.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, and then one thing that I was because Sophia Boutella makes a small appearance as the Keeper of Secrets, Saba El-Badir. And I thought she was going to be the character who got shot earlier in the movie. But that's not the case. That character shows up literally at the end to wrench Catherine O'Hara in the back of the head and then be like, yeah, I was waiting the whole time for something to go down.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, but I was just kind of like, oh, I thought, yeah, again, that was a thing there. I don't know. It was just, like I said, there was some fun stuff in it. I think just for me, it just became too wild at the end. But that's because I think, like I was saying to you, even with the title like Argylle and everything, like I thought it was going to be like 60s spy stuff. And then, of course, it wasn't. But I was like, oh, maybe even like the Henry Cavill, John Cena stuff was going to be 60s, and that's the era she's writing about, kind of like James Bond, Ian Fleming or whatever. But that even wasn't the case at all either, because that wouldn't have fit the story where she was actually the spy, right?
Yeah.
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 Sorry.
At the beginning scene, because everything that she writes is what she actually did, right?
That's what we're led to believe. Like, it's her memories, yeah.
So the beginning scene, Henry Cavill's kind of gone to like a disco in Greece in the middle of the day for some reason. And there's like blonde lady in gold sequin dress, and then he does like the weird dance move with her, the whirly bird, I think they called it, that they repeat later. So does that mean that Bryce Dallas Howard was actually doing that? That she went in to seduce the blonde lady and then also picked her up over her head and danced in that weird oral sex pose?
There's two things I was thinking about that afterwards, was that it was like everything that she had done was possibly gender flipped, because she was writing the character as a man where she was a woman. So maybe she was there seducing a man. Mm-hmm. Maybe didn't do that dance, or maybe she did, but she executed the whirly bird, like she picked her up. Or like you said, it was what was my other thought? I had it a second ago. It's gone from my brain.
I don't mind if she seduced a woman.
No,
so that's like by representation-ish, kind of, I guess.
Oh, exactly, right. And
by spectrum.
Yeah, I would say, or that also, was it. Like, she was there and was there just a woman, right?
Okay.
Another thing that bothered me, though, sorry.
I guess it doesn't make her bi, but it makes her like, I guess the bad guy would be.
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
I mean, it's revealed the bad guy knew that she was an agent anyway, so she just could have been playing along.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. But I was
like, oh no, don't seduce me.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'll totally pretend to be into you.
Exactly.
Oh, I hope we don't have to kiss.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was going to say, I should have mentioned, like, so during the fantasy or the unreality of her book world, like we mentioned, Henry Cavill plays Argylle, John Cena plays Wyatt, her partner, or his partner, sorry. Dua Lipa plays the Lagrange, that woman you were just talking about.
Yeah. She's in the Barbie movie briefly as a mermaid.
Is she? I honestly, I guess she's like a pop star maybe or something. I honestly don't know.
You might recognize some of her songs from grocery stores or whatever.
Possibly, yeah. Richard E. Grant plays the Director Fowler, who's the bad director of the Directorate, and then Jing Lucy plays Li Na, who was the woman Henry Cavill was talking to about the silver bullet in like Hong Kong at the end of her fourth book that she was writing.
Wait, does that mean that Bryce Howard, Dallas Howard sees random woman to get the too? Oh no, wait, because she never finishes writing that scene. Okay.
Plus, she forgot that she got her hackers confused, because the hacker that she went to, of course, was Bakunin, the guy she shot, right? So, yeah, and then in the quote unquote real world, like you said, we got Bryce Dallas Howard playing L.D. Conway, Sam Rockwell plays Aiden Wilde, who's the Wyatt in her books, Bryan Cranston as mentioned, director Ritter, and then Catherine O'Hara plays her mother / psyops lady Ruth. Yeah, and then we got a main henchman. He has like 3 lines. Thomas Paredes, who's Carlos. He's like the guy who asked the question about if she's a spy at the book signing.
Oh, right.
And he's like the main henchman guy, and then she stabs him in the ice fighting sequence there.
Yeah, in the boss fight that you just don't care about because he's barely in the movie.
Yeah, he like as other hench people are whittled away, he's just like the last one left. Stanley Morgan plays Bakunin. Samuel L. Jackson shows up as Alfie, which is the same name as her cat. And then, as I mentioned before, Sophia Boutella as well, just in a brief scene. I thought she was going to be in the movie a little more because I think she's got above the title billing. But I feel like everybody does has like above the title billing.
What else is she from? I don't recognize her at all.
So she was in The Mummy, the Tom Cruise Mummy.
I didn't see that.
She was recently in Rebel Moon, the Zack Snyder Star Wars on Netflix. She's been in a bunch of stuff, either big roles, small roles here and there kind of thing. But that was her. But
the things she's best known for, I haven't seen, so it's not bad that I didn't recognize.
No, probably not. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to think of like other things she's been in. I like I said, I know she has more credits than what I just named clearly. She was in Atomic Blonde. She was the photographer lady that meets Charlize Theron in the bar.
I really liked Atomic Blonde. I can only remember the stairwell fight scene.
I mean, it's a great fight scene.
Yeah, and the soundtrack was really good.
But yeah, so she's in that as well, which is probably where you recognize her.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. And then, like we were saying, Sam Rockwell comes in, rescues her from this attack, but he's more like, hey, it's revealed that he's like, hey, you and I, we were working together to try to take down the directorate. We had a relationship. We were spies together. And then he kind of is like, hey, you actually, or he doesn't tell her right away, but he's like, I was supposed to meet a hacker. It didn't happen. Tell me what you think. Like, use your writing to like, blah, 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 which we find out her memories, of course, later. But I did like that part where she's sitting at the park where he was supposed to meet the hacker. And she's like, okay, what about like if the phone had a chip and this and that? And she's like, yeah, do you still have the phone? He's like, no, I threw it away. It was a burner phone. And she's like, but it was like, could have been a clue. And he's like, it was a burner. You don't keep a burner phone. That's the point. So again, like that, their interactions and stuff like that were a lot of fun.
Yeah, totally.
And then, she comes up with an idea about finding the satellite signal. They find a satellite close by, leads to this action fight in the apartment where they find a logbook. And then after they just get away from this was pretty interesting. Again, this was something I did like. She goes to the Savoy, and her parents show up, Bryan Cranston and Catherine O'Hara, which we've seen as bad guys. And so this was kind of like, for a minute, I was kind of like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Well, okay.
We didn't see Catherine O'Hara as a bad guy. We've seen Catherine O'Hara as her mother, and we see Bryan Cranston as a bad guy, but we haven't seen her father.
Right, yes. Sorry. Her father's mentioned. But like I said, I thought for a moment, again, this could be kind of an interesting thing where he shows up and just happens to look like Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
And is her dad, but isn't a bad guy. And I was like, this could be kind of a neat thing. But that turned out, no, he is the bad guy. And Sam Rockwell again shows up and he's like, no, I'm trying to help you, lady. Like, what are you doing? But Bryan Cranston manages to look at the logbook, take some pictures of it, and they're like, okay, it's like this, not Fibonacci, but it's like Lammas sequence or whatever, right? So they're like, we could find this silver bullet. But it was one of those things that was given to Sophia Boutella, and she was like, I'm only supposed to give it to our Kelly, not our Kelly. Our Kyle, sorry. That was her name. Yeah.
Our Kelly.
Yeah. Wrong person.
Thinking about the closets.
But yeah, so even if Bryan Cranston and them found it, they would be like, okay, at least we know where it is, I guess, but we can't go get it. Maybe they would have worked out a deal, I don't know, with the secret keeper. But this was, again, something that bothered me, okay? Like, so they get the drive, and she's like looking at the drive, right? Reading the thing, and she's like, oh, like shocked reaction where you're like, yeah, Sam Rockwell told you were a spy. You obviously were doing some shady stuff, right? And then when they're having that tea and the conversation, and then Catherine O'Hara's like, "You read the file, you saw what was on it." Cut to her reading the file, which we just saw 30 seconds ago. I was like, how insulting is this shot right here? At least to me, I was like, the other parts of the flashback, yes, but like we don't need to see her reading the drive. Like we just saw that.
Yeah, but they show her seeing herself.
Yeah, but like
show us before. They have to spell it out for some people. I know it's stupid and it's a waste of time, but
yeah,
some people need it absolutely spelled out for them.
I guess, but that's always bothered me. Like he's not the only director or people who have done that, where they're like, "Do you blah blah blah," and you're like, "Yeah, we just saw that. Like we don't need, you don't have to show it again."
The worst is when it's like a rom-com and then you see like a montage of the rest of the movie, like of them falling in love, and you're like, yeah, I just watched this whole fucking movie.
Yeah.
Did you think that I was in the bathroom for the last hour and 15 minutes? I don't need to see this again.
You were on TikTok the whole time. You didn't catch the movie.
The whole time. I was live streaming my reaction to the movie, but people kept commenting, so I had to read that instead.
Precisely, yeah. Anyway, again, I know that's, like you said, that's a filming thing, but I was just like, dude, yeah, we know she was a spy and doing shady stuff for the directorate. We don't need this extra layer. And then, like I said, I've already told my thoughts about the last third or last quarter, let's say, of the movie and this climax. I felt like I was like, oh yeah, like after that ending where she's pretending, I was like, that, what a great end right here. It's a spy thing, and you do a spy maneuver, like Sam Rockwell said, it's boring and not like glamorous. Right? But nope, it goes all crazy glamorous.
Of course.
Yeah, like I said, like this, and again, like the CG smoke fight. Again, if that led to your conclusion, I would have been like, okay, yeah, done, you did it. That's a great ending, right? Like they're together, they're kicking ass, cool.
I think that maybe the approach, if people have listened to this and they're like, oh, I'm curious about Argylle, I think the approach that you should have to it is like, it's kind of like, so like, listen to the internet, don't come for me too hard. But approach it in the same way that you would approach like Rocky Horror Picture Show, where like the premise is ridiculous and none of it makes sense, but it's a visual, spectacular thing.
But then it's not as visually spectacular though, right? Like comparatively to other visually spectacular, like it's supposed to be more of an action gritty movie, right?
No, but I mean, like, okay, come on, the smoke scene.
Yeah.
There's nothing gritty about that.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's one of my problems.
To me, it felt like just like a fun, like, hey, we got this idea for a fight scene. Let's stick it in the movie.
Sure.
And I didn't really mind because, like, I guess I didn't expect it to make too much sense going into it. I kind of expected the story to not be great.
Yeah, and I guess, like, again, this is a little bit on me, like you said. Like I had this expectation that was different.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that this was the Kingsman person and etc. And I've only ever seen one of those movies anyway.
I mean, it's like a similar, because I can't remember the name of it, but there was that Sandra Bullock movie with he's not named Chad. Channing Tatum. Potatoes. Yeah. Chad Potatoes and Sandra Bullock is in this movie where she's like a romance writer.
Yeah, that was a Netflix one that you saw, right?
It wasn't on, well, I think it's on Netflix now, but it was released in theaters as well.
Okay, sorry.
And I watched it, and it was like a fun little, and that's kind of the expectation that I had with this movie, is that it was going to kind of be something similar, but with spies instead of romance.
Right.
And so I wasn't expecting it to be like The Bourne Identity or anything like that. I was expecting it to be very silly and not very serious. And so because of my expectations, I think I just enjoyed it more than you.
No, and that's totally fair. Like, and like I said, I mean, and again, like you said, like I didn't hate it. I enjoyed watching it. I feel like yeah, either that expectation disconnect or just like I said, I feel like it could have ended sooner.
Yeah.
With a different action sequence, or just like a different spy type ending, and I'd have been like, oh yeah, like that was great, right? It just, but
you know what I thought was a bit strange about the movie that no one ever commented on was that she was like a writer, and her house was decked out in like merch from her own books. Like her desk had like the collector's edition of the Argylle books displayed in the front. She had like the toys, she had the poster on the wall. She like had like her mug. I think she had a t-shirt, like, and that's never commented on, that she's like really into her own stuff.
Well, maybe that's the show because it's a subconscious thing because they're her memories, and so she's like, they're more than just the books to her, right? In a sense.
Yeah, but there's no, like, Sam Rockwell, who's been like watching her, isn't like, that's really weird that you collect your own merch.
Yeah.
No one comments on it. We're just like, okay, we get it. She wrote.
Maybe it's all like author first run stuff that just a sample product that they give her, so she's kept it all.
I just don't think that it would be all on display. Like, I don't think that J.K. Rowling's house is covered in like Harry Potter bullshit. Do you?
No.
I don't think Stephen King has like a little clown on his desk and collector's editions of the Gunslinger books displayed prominently.
Maybe he does.
I guess so. I would find that so strange.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like, I don't know, some movie stars have like big pictures of themselves up in their house and stuff. Sure. I guess it's similar, but it seems so weird to me.
Yeah, like the figure made sense because... Oh, sorry.
Well, I mean, it would be like if you had weird work merch. You had the law firm stuff put up her picture.
I would say, like, the figure, like she uses it kind of as an inspiration. That makes kind of sense that you're like, okay, she's got that there to kind of like in her brain bounce ideas off of. Cool. But like you said, the other stuff, a little more questionable.
I think it's weird.
Well, and again, I don't even think like that was her house, right? Like, because it was probably set up by the directorate, right?
I don't know. She wrote 5 very, very successful books. She might have been able to purchase that on her own.
I guess so, yeah. That
she was in her coma before she published any of them from the skating accident. She might have bought that with her own money.
Yeah, quite possible.
And then she spent her own money on her own merch so that she could display it in case anybody was questioning whether or not she wrote those books. Do you think the creator of, like, Paw Patrol has Paw Patrol bullshit all over their house?
Definitely.
Okay, cool.
I was going to say a couple notes I'm sure that people may be aware of, that Alfie the cat is played by the cat named Chip, which is Matthew Vaughn's wife's cat, which is Claudia Schiffer's cat.
Oh, his wife is Claudia Schiffer?
Apparently.
All right.
I would say, again, this was one of those things, like, it was announced, when they were first announcing it, that Marv was planning 3 films to make this a trilogy. There's been no kind of like, I saw an interview with Sam Rockwell and Henry Cavill. They were like, well, if they call, well, I'd be down for it. But he's like, we'll see what the audiences think, as it were, and stuff like that. It's like, ooh, I don't know.
It needs to be picked up by a streaming service. That's what needs to happen. It needs to be in. Oh yeah, that's right. I think it needs to be straight to streaming, not in theaters first.
Yeah, well, and again, I think because there was a universal distribution deal, that there might have been like a delay time or something.
There's a joke that John Oliver said on one of his shows where Apple TV is where stars go to hide. Because nobody watches the fucking shows.
Yeah, it's weird though, but like I think they've produced some decent stuff, or at least like stuff you hear through the grapevine. I haven't watched any of it, but like there was that one.
I have Apple TV. I really liked Severance. It was quite good, except that I thought that it was a limited series. and it ended on a cliffhanger. So now I have to wait for season 2. And then I liked the morning show as well. At least the first season. It does get pretty melodramatic after the first season. Like very in a silly way, like very soap opera.
Yeah, because I was saying, I think I've heard of that one, the morning show, and then there was that one. I think it was like Raised by Wolves or something. There was some kind of sci-fi one that they were.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe
I know
Raised by
Matt
Wolves.
watched
something else.
Slow Horses or something like that. It had Gary Oldman in it.
Oh.
Something with horses. Maybe it was fast horses. Medium speed horses.
They were regular speed horses.
Just normal horses.
Yeah. And one of the things that was kind of interesting is that one of the people who produced this, he was the CEO of Marv at the time this was announced. I can't remember his name. I didn't mark it down, but he left Marv Productions to go start his own British distribution company for film and television, and it's literally called like Brit TV or something like that kind of thing. But then I thought was kind of interesting is that like Marv has a minority stake in that company, and that company, like the guy who was running Marv, like they've made all sorts of British televisions and producing all sorts of stuff like that. So it was just like you said, like he's got some money schemes going on, this Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah. He's got to keep his wife.
I guess, yeah.
The hottest woman from the 90s. Like that's what her title is professionally, I'm pretty sure.
It's on her business card.
It's on her office door.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything too much more to say for me, I think, about the movie. Like I said, it was definitely not the worst thing I've watched. I did enjoy a lot about it. There was just some things I didn't enjoy about it, and that's, again, maybe an expectation disconnect. Maybe I was more ready for something a little more grounded and spy-ish. And I liked the premise, and like I was saying to you, like and I said earlier, like I would have been okay with it had there never been that extra twist about like she was a spy. It's like, yeah, fine. But yeah, overall.
I think. Oh, sorry. Overall.
Well, I was about to say, I don't know. Overall, medium.
I think for me, it was the kind of silly I enjoy. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed it. Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely not for everybody, though.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. But I thought it was fun. That's it.
Sure.
I was in a good mood that day, so I liked it. That's all I can say, really. I don't know. I thought it was fun. Sam Rockwell is charming, and so charming. And I just like anything he's in, I think. I haven't seen Moon, have you?
Yeah, Moon's great.
Yeah, I should watch that. That's directed by David Bowie's son, hey? Yeah. Okay, I'll go watch Moon now.
Yeah. Double recommend, go watch Moon.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I would recommend it if you liked the second Kingsman movie, you'll like this movie.
Yeah, fair enough. I think, like I was saying to you, I think I've seen part of the first one on mute, and then I did watch the prequel one with Ralph Fiennes. And I can't believe
you haven't watched the first one like properly.
I don't know. Again, like it just never really jumped out at me that I was like, this is a must see for me. But
I'm surprised at you, Daniel.
Like I've seen. Well, and I've seen like breakdowns of that church fight scene and stuff like that, like from like stunt people and everything. And I was like, oh wow, like really well choreographed. There's some cool stuff going on here. But I was just been kind of like, eh.
The second one is so off the rails and so silly. Like it's like 0 sense made. Like just.
Yeah, I think I've listened to the Weekly Planet review of it, and they were both like, this movie is ridiculous, essentially.
You can tell, though, that Julianne Moore is having the time of her life. She is enjoying the shit out of being, I think she's like mother or something. Is her name?
Like a directorate controller person?
Yeah, kind of I can't even remember now, or Mama or something like that. I can't remember, but doesn't matter. She's hamming it up. Full ham.
Nice.
Same with Pedro Pascal. It's pretty like hamming it up.
Well, maybe, yeah, like I'll have to sit down and just watch the three of them. Because I don't even know if there are, because again, it's one of those things like, I don't know if the prequel one with Ralph Fiennes did well enough, because I assume that was meant to kick off like another trilogy or whatever, right? Like,
I didn't see it.
Fair enough. How did you not see it if you liked the other two Kingsman movies?
Because when it came out, I didn't like the second Kingsman movie yet. I had to rewatch it to like it.
All right.
But when I rewatched it, I'm like, this is there's like extended scenes with Elton John fighting in full like bird costume. So.
Well, and it was weird when they announced even to me that they were doing that prequel one, because I was like, I thought you had these other ones going.
Yeah.
The sequel to those, like, why are you doing this prequel now suddenly?
Who knows?
Yeah.
The second one's funny too because what's his name? Aegir Targaryen, that actor.
Egerton or Egerton? Yeah.
What's his first name?
I don't know.
Bill. Anyways, him, the bald guy, and Mr. Darcy are all acting in that movie like it's still the first movie, but everybody else is on a different page. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, let me see here. Oh. What is his name?
Oh, wait, no, it's Tartar Sauce Targaryen.
Taron Egerton, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because Matthew Vaughn, he's done, like he did Kick-Ass and Layer Cake. He did Stardust as well, one of your favorites.
Oh, I did like Stardust.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he did Stardust. That's funny. I didn't know he did Kick-Ass either.
Yeah, and he produced Lockstock as well, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
It is a great movie.
Best chocolate milk scene in the whole world.
Yeah, and Layer Cake's also pretty good if you haven't seen that. Recommend. That's a good one.
That one, yeah.
Or early Daniel Craig before Bond.
Yeah. Isn't he in a building, and the building is a cake? Or something?
It's mostly about gangsters and how, things build upon, right?
Yeah, but isn't the building also a layer cake? And he's trying to get through the layers of the cake to the top, and then it explodes?
Definitely. We'll go with yes on that to keep people in suspense.
We need a new segment called Devin Poorly Describes Movies Based Off Their Title.
I thought that's the show.
Yeah, good point. It's okay, I don't remember any names or the premise of movies.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I think that we could wrap it up, I guess. Like, unless you have anything more that you want to add that after all my talking.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention in the stuff I like.
Hmm.
So we'll circle back to that. Okay. I watched all the Doctor Who Christmas specials. There was like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And they were really fun. And I like David Tennant coming back as the Doctor. And I like the new Doctor. And I'm looking forward to this new queer Doctor who is a lot of fun and seems really joyous and cool. So.
Nice. When's that starting?
Ben Shapiro.
When's that going to be on?
I think this spring, it said.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the drag queens from RuPaul's Drag Race is going to be on it as a bad guy.
Ooh.
Jinx Monsoon.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, that's it, though. Now we can wrap it up.
Sure.
So thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate you, and we would love to hear from you. You can email us at tomeofuselessness@gmail.com. You can go to our website, tomeofuselessness.com. if you would like to see our face while you listen to us, we have a YouTube channel. It's Tome of Uselessness. We're also on Instagram, where I forget to post things. And also on every platform that has the podcasting, you can just hear us if you don't like the way we look.
Yeah, we try to be on every podcast.
We're on every podcast. No matter what you're listening to, it will turn into Tome of Uselessness.
Statement is not legally binding.
Oh, also, I'm thinking about making us merch. Just t-shirts that say useless. So if you would like that, let us know. Somehow. I don't know, email us or something.
Yeah.
If you think it's a bad idea, I don't care. I might do it anyways. We know that our 3 listeners would really like some merch.
And me too. So that's like four shirts.
Yeah, well, I mean, we could wear them in the podcast. T-shirts that say useless, so people know what they're getting into when they find our YouTube channel. Okay, that's it. Thank you, and have a great life.
Stay safe, and thanks for listening.